Has it been 3 hours?
Yeah, it's been 3 hours.
Wow.
Just your
what's your mental
first
state?
impression of this whole thing this morning?
Well, it's the feeling of helplessness when you've got a baseball bat and a guy's got a rifle, and you see your friends, Steve Scalise in particular, lying on the ground, dragging himself from the infield dirt to the outfield grass where there's nothing we can do to help him. That's a long-lasting impression I'll always have. And the length of time it took for our Capitol Police to respond, it probably seemed a lot longer than it was. That's the way these things typically go, where the clock slows down. But the second impression would be the bravery that they displayed, taking on a guy with a rifle while they have pistols, shooting from long distance. And if they had not been successful, then the tragedy here would undoubtedly have been much greater, because those of us who were in the first base dugout, we'd have had no chance.
This kind of threat is common to all Americans, the idea of these kind of shootings happening. Is there anything you can do as a congressman to help to alleviate that threat?
If y'all will please forgive me, as is still flowing. I'm emotionally distraught from what I've just seen, and these policy type questions really ought to be for a later day when we have more information about what has transpired.
What did you think the yeoman shot talking to us?
Thank you so much.
You've been along with us.
All right, guys, you've been listening to Congressman Mo Brooks there, certainly in a state of, I hope I'm not exaggerating, a state of shock it appears that he is still in, trying to grasp and gather what exactly is taken place. Earlier today, he said he rode his bike over here from the U.S. Capitol 9 miles. He has his voting card in his backpack that is with his bicycle that is still laid out on the baseball field, just a couple hundred feet that way. And you can see during that live interview, we were walking down the street. We were being pushed back as this investigation expands, as more jurisdictions come in, ATF, FBI, Alexandria Police, even Metro Transit police officers now arriving on the scene here to help out. This is an all-hands-on-deck operation and investigation. The law enforcement, they are trying to figure out for themselves what exactly happened here, and we continue to hear these eyewitness accounts. Right now, we are getting reports that the gunman had a conversation with one of the congressmen. It's unclear exactly what he said. He did not speak to Mo Brooks, but certainly a very scary situation for these members of Congress here who are still grasping exactly what happened. That's the latest right now from where I am standing. I want to send it inside or over to Scott Thuman.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I'm here on the back side of the ballpark of Simpson Field, and I'm with Noah Nathan, who is a resident. He lives nearby, but also, Noah, you were at the dog park when all this unfolded. And just so people know, it's just behind this fence. So we're talking, it's what, 15 yards behind the actual ball field, very close in proximity, right? Tell me what it is you first saw and then what unfolded from there.
Right. Well, I was walking in, and the Republican, they practice here all the time, so it's a normal thing to see them playing ball here. And just when I was going in the dog park, I heard was the first shot, but I just thought it was some kids with fireworks. And so I went into the first gate of the dog park, and then I heard the second shot, and I realized it wasn't fireworks, and people were starting to scurry around. So then I just laid flat on the ground, and I didn't get a chance to lock the gate behind, so I had to hold on to the dogs. And then after a couple shots came by, I can hear them whizzing by. I heard them hit the fence, heard them skip across the gravel.
You're saying you heard the shots actually hit near you?
Yeah. And then I was just laying flat on the ground, and then there were two trash cans in that area, so I just tried to wiggle over there to get some protection. But there was nothing I can do. I was pretty much just helpless and pretty pissed off that I was helpless. So I got my phone out. It's like, well, at least let me record it. Maybe there'll be some information that can be used. And so I got like 5.5 minutes of video of, I didn't see the shooter, but I saw the police shooting back at the shooter. And the police have my phone, so hopefully they can get something worthwhile from it.
Yeah, talk to me about, you also said you had a view of the ball field at that point, and you're looking in there, and you can see what we assume may have been Congressman Scalise at that point lying down, and the reaction, what happened with him immediately after? Yeah,
so he was laying on the field, and then his buddies were saying, don't move. It was almost like out of a movie with like a sniper saying, don't move or he's going to shoot you again. They were just saying, don't move. And then as soon as all the firing stopped, I'm guessing the whole thing maybe was like 8-9 minutes. So after all the firing stopped, then his buddies ran out to him to try and make sure he was okay. I don't remember how long it took until the ambulance got here, and then they medevaced him out.
the moments that you realize this is not fireworks, this isn't something else, this is definitively a shooting and I'm in danger. You said you also saw them trying to get away from the baseball field. Everyone was seeking shelter at that point. Tell me what the people who were on the field, the ball players, were doing.
Right, they were running, some of them jumping over the fence and trying to get behind the building. At first, I don't think we realized where the shooter was coming from, so you didn't want to like run right into where he was shooting. So soon, I think they realized that he was from, I don't know if it was like the snack bar or the dugout. So they jumped over the fence and they were able to get away. Some jumped into the dog park. There was about 15 of us in the dog park at the time. I was just flat out, just trying to get as flat as I could. And then, you know, it was nice because you could see the police, the Capitol Police shooting back. And then after all the gunfire stopped, then it was like, okay, it's safe to get up. And then we saw them running out to the congressman.
Talk a little bit more about the Capitol Police, because as you've stated, you see the ball players here, you see the members and their staff playing and practicing all the time here, and you know that there is some level of security by Capitol Police for the members, but it's not. It's pretty subtle. It's not overt. So you're not seeing a bunch of officers in uniform standing around. Yet you said they were really quick to react today. Talk about that.
There's usually like 1 or 2 SUVs in the Capitol in the suits. So they're not playing ball. But yeah, they were really quick. They were able to contain it. But there's kids here. Some of them brought, I don't know, kids or grandkids, I guess, because they're out of school.
You said there was a pregnant woman in the park.
Yeah, there was a pregnant woman in the park. She's like due in a month, so luckily no issues happened there.
Mm-hmm. And now that you've had a few moments to kind of digest this, give me your thoughts. Look, this is. It could have been a Little League game. It could have been anything. So it's terrible regardless of who was a target and why, and the fact that people were shot. But now that you've been able to understand some of the reporting, and these were members of Congress and their staff that were out here, and that someone intentionally came out with a rifle and was trying to shoot and kill them, give me your reaction.
Pissed off. It's like, but there's mental issues. It's a safe neighborhood, family-friendly neighborhood. I'm presuming they came out because he knew the congressman played baseball here in the morning. So I don't know.
Does everyone in this area know that this is where Congress plays?
Yeah, you don't have people come to watch the game, but people go by and realize, oh, that's the congressman, because they're usually here early. Usually here from like 6:15 to like 7:30. So they're not here all day. They're here pretty early. So if you're not up early, you're not going to notice them.
Last thing, talk again about the kind of the heroism of the police officers who were quick to react.
It was great. It's if they wouldn't have been here, we would have just been sitting ducks.
No, Nathan, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it. So there you have it. It is just a scene, as he and many others have described, out of a movie. And thankfully, very quick reaction by Capitol Police that undoubtedly saved lives here. Let's go over to Suzanne Kennedy now, who is just on the other side of the ballpark from me. She's on Monroe. Suzanne?
We're just down the street from where you are, Scott, as you mentioned, at Monroe and DeWitt, just a little bit west of where the scene is. This is an area that is a little more residential than where the park is and where the rest of those businesses are located. In the 3 hours that we have been here, we have been able to talk with numerous people who live in the neighborhood, people who heard the shots, people who were coming out of their house, going to work, walking their dog, mowing the lawn. All of the silence of this quiet neighborhood pierced by what has happened here over the last couple of hours. Everyone here is just talking about the shock. They're talking about how they just can't believe that this happened in Delray, in a small neighborhood that has a very small town feel. We do have some of those interviews. We want you to take a listen to them just to see exactly how this incident has impacted this community.
Of what appeared to be shots. Pow, 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 pow. So then you hear, after the first round of fire, another seemed to be like return fire. Pow, 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 pow. I bet you there were 30 to 50 shots that I heard. And you're like, well, if they're shooting or the guy's running around the neighborhood, I don't want to get shot mowing the lawn, so let's just stop the mower.
Just complete and utter, just a cavalcade of fire, well, not fire, but police, sheriff, unmarked. It just incredible barrage of law enforcement.
Copters flying around. It's just a lot of residents walking around, like basically like what happened. So it's just, as you see, like everything was just, took quickly.
That first man that you heard from, that we talked with, was describing the shots. He was out mowing his lawn, and he says he just became panic-stricken. He ran into his house. He thought that perhaps his safety was going to be impacted by the gunfire. He said he could not believe what has happened. He's a lifelong resident of Del Rey. This street remains closed here. As you can see, there is still a significant police presence. And if you look over here to the right, you can see that now there are 50 or 60 members of the media. Normally, a shooting in Alexandria, Virginia would only garner the attention of local media, but obviously national and international media have come to this scene because of the nature of the shooting, because members of Congress were involved in it. We are also hearing that within the next 20 minutes or so, we will hear from law enforcement at this area. We heard from them just around 9 o'clock this morning, where they gave us some of the facts that we had already heard from authorities on the scene, but they gave it to us in a formal manner. We are hoping that around 10:30 we will hear more from them. I just conducted an interview a few minutes ago that we are trying to very quickly turn around, and we will hear from him in just a little bit. This is an eyewitness who was inside the YMCA on the property where the shooting took place. As soon as we have that interview available, we will show it to you. But for now, we're going to go to Kevin Lewis, who is live this morning at GW Hospital, where the victims were taken.
Well, good morning, Suzanne. We are live outside of the ambulance bay and emergency room here at George Washington University Hospital. Officials at the hospital confirming that 2 of the 5 individuals shot this morning are in their care here. Those 2 individuals described to be in critical condition. There are multiple reports that the congressman from Louisiana is here at George Washington University Hospital, but hospital staff not confirming that. I should point out, though, we've also heard that the congressman was taken to 2 other area hospitals, MedStar, Washington, and Inova. So a lot of uncertainty as to his exact whereabouts right now. About 5 minutes ago, I was listening to scanner audio from Alexandria City Police, Fire, and EMS, and I just want to read minute by minute and kind of outline how this all unfolded this morning. At 7:18 and 30 seconds, there was the initial page and dispatch for multiple phone calls reporting shots fired into Alexandria 911. At 7:19, another report of shots being fired, people running, possibly multiple victims involved. By 7:20, an officer reported hearing gunfire himself as he responded to the scene. The first request for a perimeter put into place. At 7:21, the report of a citizen coming into fire station number 2 in Alexandria, reporting gunfire to paramedics and firefighters in that station. Then at 7:22, an officer reported saying, and I quote here, "We've got one in custody." That officer requesting medics, saying the suspect was shot. And I want to underline that was within 4.5 minutes of the initial dispatch of shots being fired. The suspect reported in custody. At 7:23, officers asking for the police officer who had taken the suspect into custody, asking for their location. That officer responding saying, by the baseball field near the YMCA. I see one victim lying in the baseball field, not moving. At 7:25, another one down, total of 5 down. That's the first time we heard that there were 5 victims by 7:25. At 7:26, fire and EMS allowed in. Initially, they were not being allowed to the scene because of the active shooter situation. Clearly, firefighters and paramedics are not armed. So in these types of situations, they're kept at bay and then brought in once the scene is secured. So that was 7:26. At 7:27, a medevac requested. At 7:28, police asking for extra crime scene tape. They said that they needed more crime scene tape to rope off the entire baseball field. There were also reports that some of the eyewitnesses were leaving the scene, and there was kind of a frantic call to make sure no eyewitnesses left, so they had as much information as possible. And then at 7:30, the first report of 2 victims, red code, and 3 victims, yellow code. Dave Lucas at our live desk right now inside our studios. Dave, what do you have?
Very interesting on the TikTok there, what we know. I want to take a big picture look at something that's going on here. No question that today the heroes of this very sad and troubling assault, those two Capitol Police officers, a male and a female. Now, Steve Scalise, who was wounded in the hip and is probably the high-profile victim here, is a member of the House leadership team, and as a result, he is entitled to a security detail, and that's why there were two armed Capitol Police officers with him at this baseball practice at about 7:15 when the shooting started. Now, we know that both were injured. The female, apparently the first person injured, and it was the male officer who was injured, but continued to return fire, and in several of the accounts that we have heard today, it was that male Capitol Police officer who shot and in effect took down the shooter here, the assailant. So it'll be interesting to see how that pulls out. You see a picture of Capitol Hill there. So it's worthy of our consideration on just how hazardous and how heroic the members of the Capitol Police are. It was July the 24th of 1998 when two Capitol Police officers were killed inside the Capitol building. Detective John Gibson and Officer Jacob Chestnut killed on that July 24th, Friday, if memory serves, when Russell Weston Jr. entered the east side. We're looking at the west face. It was on the other side, which at the time was the main entrance. He walked in and close by a magnetometer, pulled a gun, and started shooting. Eventually, Weston was taken down, but not before he killed two members of the Capitol Police. And then it was October the 3rd of 2013 when Miriam Kelly, a dental hygienist, tried to drive through a White House security checkpoint. She was chased all the way up toward Capitol Hill, where she eventually crashed her car and was shot and killed again by a Capitol Police officer. So these are it's no exaggeration to say that this thin blue line stands between members of Congress and indeed the public, and some people who mean to do them harm. Suzanne Kennedy is standing by for us right now, and she has a very important interview. She and our folks on the ground there have been doing the heavy lifting, talking to the folks who have seen this. Suzanne, what have you got?
Well, just a few minutes ago, someone walked up to the rope line where we are right now. He was a young man, about 25 years old. He's a defense contractor by the name of Owen Britton. He had gone down to the YMCA to work out this morning. He said he had gotten there, and then all of a sudden he heard the gunfire. We had a chance to talk to him and hear all the details of what was going on at the time, and here's what he had to say.
I was trying to leave the YMCA, and someone told me there was a person with a gun outside, and I looked outside the front door of the YMCA, and there was someone with a gun. He was an elderly gentleman between 55 and 65. He appeared to me to have white hair and white facial hair and blue polo, and he was carrying an AK-47 or some sort of Kalashnikov variant assault rifle. He was crouched behind a wooden structure, exchanging fire with what I believe to be police officers who were hiding behind a black SUV. One was shooting over the engine block, another was lying down behind the SUV, and they were exchanging fire. I believe one of the police officers' rounds passed through the YMCA windows. Two rounds hit the windows. One went through and landed in the pool. Another lodged between two panes of glass.
As you can see there, obviously his workout was quite disrupted by what was going on. He says that he really was absolutely shocked to hear this happen. He was very nervous. There were other people inside that YMCA that were also very concerned. They all sheltered in place there. He just came down here a few minutes ago. He did, as in case you didn't hear, he did describe who he saw there with that semi-automatic weapon. He said a Caucasian man with a white beard, somewhere between about 50 and 60 years old. He says he just couldn't believe what he was seeing at the time that he was watching it. Where we are right now, within the next few minutes, we are anticipating hearing from the chief and some other law enforcement officers. We are also hearing the possibility that the governor may be headed to the scene. We are keeping an eye out for him. Sam Sweeney is just a little bit away from where I am now with an update on what's going on at the scene.
Suzanne, right now we are with the witness who was on the baseball field at the time. He was the photographer who's been photographing these practices and the congressional game for more than 30 years. Marty, you were out there. You said a congressman landed on top of you after the gunshots rang out.
I landed on top of the congressman. I was near the first base. I was photographing members as they were doing batting practice. I happened to look up and I saw a white male with a rifle. It looked like a rifle, shotgun, whatever it was. And he was behind third base, behind the fence. And it was totally out of context for what we were doing, so I couldn't understand why anybody would be shooting birds in the morning. And I'm not being facetious. It was just nothing else that we could even think about. And then all of a sudden, we kept hearing Scalise is down and get in the dugout. And so we all started moving towards the dugout, which was very crowded. And they said, get in. I heard get in, and I went down and I landed on a congressman. I don't know who he was, but after the shooting stopped, I thought it was over. And then it started again, and it was a clip, so obviously he was finishing the clip. And then we heard a different gunshot sound, which was the Capitol Police. And they only had pistols. And we are all alive because of the Capitol Police. Had they not been there, we would have all been killed. And I understand one or two of them were injured.
Describe to me what the congressmen were saying as you were laying on top of them in the dugout.
Again, I don't know if it was a congressman or a staffer, but in the dugout, the shooting stopped. I wasn't thinking, I figured it's over, and I started to get up, and somebody said, get down and get next to the wall. It turned out whoever said that probably saved my life, because I was told that there is a piece of concrete or cinder block in the back of the dugout that fell out. So again, it was there were people who kept their heads, fortunately, and gave us enough guidance. But you become very religious at that moment.
Wow. Well, Marty, we're glad you're okay, but I do have one last question. Did you get a picture of this man?
No. No, because, and there was no reason to. Why would I take a picture of some guy with a rifle? The answer is no, and I would not have even entered my mind. In retrospect, of course, but...
Well, Marty, most importantly, we're glad you're okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
And just one more witness, one more person who was there, who is thankfully okay this morning. Autry, Larry, back inside you.
Wow, as we have been in this full coverage now for more than 3 hours, and that's a statement that we have just now, right?
That's right. This is a statement from Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, who is saying, Dorothy and I are shocked and deeply saddened by this horrible act of violence against members of Congress, law enforcement, and other innocent people who were simply enjoying an early morning baseball practice. We are praying for swift recoveries for those who were injured, and we are thankful for the bravery and quick action of U.S. Capitol Police and local first responders to stop the attacker and treat those who were wounded. Virginia public safety officials are coordinating with local responders, and we will continue to monitor the situation and make every resource available. That statement coming from Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe just a few moments ago. And we are also standing by in just about 3 minutes from now at 10:30. There was supposed to be another update from local police there on the scene, and Governor McAuliffe is saying that he too will be a part of that 10:30 update. So we are standing by to bring you that as it happens.
Once again, about 7:15 this morning, there at those baseball fields in the Delray neighborhood of Alexandria, a lone gunman opening fire on about 24 congressmen, the Republican team getting ready for tomorrow night's annual congressional, the Capitol Hill baseball game. 5 people were hit, including Representative Stephen Scalise, who is the House Majority Whip. Again, he was struck in the hip and is undergoing surgery right now, as we understand. And also 2 Capitol Police officers were among those shot as well, as we continue our coverage here on News Channel 8. Let's get back down to Adriana Hopkins now for more reaction on this. Adriana?
Yeah, and Larry, you mentioned that Steve Scalise has played in this game for several years. Here's a tweet we dug up from 2015, a throwback Thursday that he tweeted out. It says, "It's the big day. Can you guess which Louisiana jersey I'll be wearing at tonight's congressional baseball game?" And then 4 pictures from 2008, 2011, 2013, and 2014 of him practicing and then playing in that game. This just came in from U.S. Representative Gary Palmer. He says, "I was on the field 20 yards away from the shooter. I'm okay, but please join me in praying for Steve Scalise and the others who were injured in this." As you know, the House of Representatives say that they have canceled legislative activity for the day. You can find more details on that, of course, on our website, WJLA.com. We have heard that Steve Scalise is now in surgery. Prior to surgery, we heard he was conscious. He spoke to his wife. He's in good spirits, according to ABC News, and talked to his wife prior to entering surgery, and he is in stable condition. Representative Joe Courtney saying that he is keeping Steve Scalise, other members, staff, and Capitol Police who may have been injured in his thoughts. He's horrified by this act of violence, and we did hear from several of the people who were there, congressmen, who said that while they were not shot, they did hurt themselves as they were diving for cover in the dugout. This from Representative Cedric Richmond, also out of Louisiana. He says he is saddened by the horrific news from the GOP baseball practice. "My prayers are with my colleague Steve Scalise, the Capitol Police officers, as well as staff." And he says that he is at the hospital now as Steve Scalise is undergoing surgery. Larry and Autria, back upstairs to you.
Okay, and of course this is affecting a lot of schedules today. We have now learned that President Trump did have a scheduled meeting and address at the Department of Labor scheduled for this afternoon. He has canceled that, and Vice President Mike Pence has also canceled a meeting that he was supposed to speak at a little later on today as well. As you can see here, crews are getting set up, waiting for that 10:30 press conference. We are a little unclear on just who will be a part of this press conference, but is believed to include Alexandria Police, possibly somebody from the FBI or someone from the federal government, as well as Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, who just released a statement just a few moments ago. You can see some of the police officers and some of the officials walking up there behind that Alexandria Police cruiser.
Yeah, we're moments away from that. We should mention again the shooter, after about a 10-minute exchange, was taken into custody. And again, this is no longer an active situation right now. Let's listen in right now, getting ready to see. It looks like that is Governor McAuliffe is right there, getting in position. And let's listen in.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mike Brown, Chief of the Alexandria Police Department. That's BROWN. Can you come closer to the microphone, please? Thank you. We're here today to give you an update on the incident that occurred this morning here in Alexandria. And let me repeat, if I can, some of the facts that we do know at this point. Before I start, though, I want to say that this incident is not an active incident. The city is safe. We have an active investigation going on for the incident that took place this morning, but I want to reassure the community here in Alexandria that this city is indeed safe.